This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. President Biden said he'd try to get bipartisan support for his stimulus package, but in the end, not a single Republican voted for it. For the Republican perspective on this package, we welcome now Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Senator, thank you so much for your time. We've heard a lot from the Democrats about how wonderful this is. We think we ought to hear from the Republicans exactly what issues, at least questions you may have with what's being done.
Well, of course there are questions. Relief is to be targeted, timely, and temporary. And the Democrats had the opportunity to join us July, August, September, November, time and again to make it targeted, timely relief. They chose not to do that. But what they've done now with this package is a wish list. It is 91% goes to things other than COVID relief, and 1% of the package goes to vaccines. We already had $1 trillion in the pipeline that had not been spent. It has been appropriated but not spent. Instead of saying, let's get payments out the door, plus up the unemployment, get more PPP in the pipeline. What did they do? They came around with the package, money for museums, for humanities, loan forgiveness for students, and for socially disadvantaged farmers. Then you had the biggest expansion of Obamacare ever. And what we know with the blue state bailout is those funds, they redid the formulary for that money so that the money will go to the states with the highest unemployment, not the states that have managed themselves well, not the communities that have managed themselves well through this pandemic. That is a way for them to conduct a blue state bailout. And it was disappointing that Leader Schumer had one of his staff members immediately tweeting that this would do away with the deficit, the entire deficit that New York State was facing. So is this fair? No. Is it picking winners and losers? You better believe it. Yes, it is.
So, Senator, I'm so glad you raised the blue state bailout, because we just talked with Ned Lamont, the Democratic governor of Connecticut, and I raised this question with him. I said, what do you say to people who say it's not fair to give Connecticut money? He said he thinks, and he wasn't addressing you, I wasn't being disrespectful, he said it was a nonsense. Because he said if you look at the states, actually Florida and Texas are going to be two of the biggest beneficiaries, which are not run by Democrats. What do you say to that?
I say that all you have to do, I've got a great chart on my website that shows the states that are losing money and the states that are getting these big payouts to deal with their pension funds. And it's amazing what you see. States like Tennessee and other states giving up in order for states like New York and Connecticut and California and Illinois to receive these huge windfalls. I mean, they've even bragged about doing away with the deficit in San Francisco because of the generosity of the American taxpayer via this bill.
So let me ask you the tough question, Senator. I mean, you're a senator, you're not the governor, but should a Republican governor actually refuse the funds?
You know, there are going to be discussions not only with governors, but with some of your city councils and your county commissions because of the poison pill provision that is in this bill that says if you take money, this bailout money, then you cannot cut taxes through 2024. Now think about that. This is the federal government jumping in here and basically trying to micromanage your city council or your county commission. So you're right, there are going to be discussions about what kind of mandate is this, and how would that affect state and localities as they look to manage fairly for the people that are the citizens of their area?
Senator, the Republicans, as far as I can tell, up on Capitol Hill are with you, across the board, 100%. At the same time, the polls we've seen tend to indicate the American people, they're much more favorably inclined, including Republicans, toward this. Now, getting a check from the government, who's going to object to that? And the Romans used to call it, I think, bread and circus, basically. But doesn't that make a difficult political issue for Republicans come those midterm elections? How are they going to campaign against people getting checks?
One of the things that we do know is education is important. And as we have seen, as we've talked with Tennesseans, of course, getting aid to people that are suffering, everybody is for that. People that lost their job through no fault of their own, of course you want to help them. Businesses that are struggling, you better believe it, we want to help them. That is part of targeted relief. That is what people are for. But when you say that this is going to do loan forgiveness, when you say this is going to plus up Obamacare, when they hear about the blue state bailout, they're going, no, why are they doing that? Why is there money for transportation in this? Those are issues that should be decided separately, and they're really very frustrated. Like I said, go back into July, August, September, October, November. The Democrats had plenty of opportunities to work on this consistently through the fall. They chose not to do that. Also, the 5 previous COVID relief bills have all been bipartisan. This one, it was a partisan party line vote, except for one Democrat in the House who joined Republicans in voting against this.
You know, there's no question President Biden said he wanted to be bipartisan. It didn't come out that way. I think that's fair to say. So thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to have you here. That's Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee, taking some issue with this stimulus bill that is going to be passed into law, enacted and signed as of tomorrow by President Biden, as we hear from him in a primetime address, his first tonight. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and on radio.